On June 8, 2018, fishermen aboard a commercial vessel near the Long Island Strait noticed something unusual in the water. Closer inspection from the deck revealed it to be a man's body. The fishermen immediately reported their discovery to the Coast Guard. Police arriving at the scene retrieved the body of a young man from the shore. They noted unexplained bruises and abrasions on the body. It was later identified as Spencer Mugford, who had been reported missing a few days earlier along with his girlfriend, Sofia Mckenna. To determine the circumstances of Spencer's demise, his body was sent for examination. The autopsy results indicated that drowning was the cause of death. Experts found no signs of violence, and all injuries were attributed to water. It's important to note that the details of the autopsy were not disclosed. The same weekend Spencer and his girlfriend disappeared, 2 other men also went missing in the area. Their bodies were later found, having drowned as well. From the outset, the police believed these were tragic accidents due to unfavorable circumstances, leading to the young individuals drowning. No other theories about the incident were considered at the time. However, the body of Spencer's companion, Sofia Mckenna, was never found. This enigmatic tale unfolded on the night of May 27, 2018, in the small town of Groton, located in Connecticut, in the northeastern United States. The case remains unsolved, raising more questions than answers. The main characters of the story are 2 young people who decided to take a walk and visit the lighthouse in New London, situated on the banks of the Thames River and considered a mystical place by the locals. The historic lighthouse, constructed in 1909, is famous for rumors about mysterious phenomena associated with the ghost of its first keeper, Ernie. According to legend, Ernie's beloved left him, and in despair, he ended his life by jumping from the lighthouse's roof. Since then, locals and visitors have reported strange occurrences at the lighthouse. Some speak of unexplained phenomena, such as doors and windows opening by themselves, while others mention bedsheets slipping off beds. Sailors have told of radios turning on without apparent reason and ships mysteriously unmooring from the shore. Consequently, the lighthouse has become the focus of numerous television programs dedicated to paranormal phenomena. Although these claims are merely rumors, the place continues to attract people with its mysterious and unusual aura. Spencer and Sofia were among those who had long dreamed of visiting this enigmatic lighthouse and set out there on the eve of Memorial Day. However, something went awry that night. What exactly happened remains unknown. Family members and the police can only speculate based on the few available facts. On Saturday, the 27th, Sofia Mckenna's friend Austin tried to contact her, but got no response to his calls. At first, he didn't think much of it, knowing that Sofia usually slept late. However, after several hours of unsuccessful attempts to reach her through calls and messages, Austin grew worried. He contacted Sofia's mother, Michelle, to find out if Sofia had called her the previous night. Michelle hadn't checked her cell phone, as her younger daughter had been playing with it since morning. When Michelle finally looked at her phone, she found 7 missed calls from an unknown number. Trying to call back, she reached the voicemail of Spencer, a friend of her daughter's, and realized those might have been calls from Sofia. Michelle tried to reach Sofia but also got no response. Panic set in, and she and Austin immediately began searching. Austin called all the local hospitals, while Michelle filed a missing persons report with the police. Contacting Spencer's family, they learned that his relatives were also worried since he hadn't shown up for an important family gathering and hadn't responded to their attempts to contact him. They went to Spencer's apartment but found no signs of his presence there the previous night. Spencer's father knew his son had been meeting with Sofia the evening before, which caused concern for him and his wife due to the problem Sofia was facing. Spencer's mother mentioned that her son had planned to go fishing with a friend, but she felt he was lying and actually intended to meet Sofia that evening. She last spoke with her son at 10 p.m. when he wished her good night. Realizing something had happened, Spencer's family also reported his and his girlfriend's disappearance to the police. Around 6:30 p.m., the police began searching for the missing young people. At that time, Austin contacted the sheriff to inform him that he had information about where Sofia and Spencer were the previous night. He explained that he knew this because he had allowed Sofia to go there. Austin also mentioned that he stumbled upon a video posted by Sofia on Snapchat the previous night. Sofia had recorded the video on Spencer's mobile phone while they were on a boat heading towards the lighthouse. The footage showed the back of a young man rowing towards the lighthouse. Everything looked good, and they were having fun. Later, Sofia uploaded this video to her Snapchat account. Later, at 2 a.m., a photograph of Sofia was uploaded to Spencer's chat. She was playfully posing with the concrete barrier of the lighthouse in the background, marked with a "Do Not Cross" sign. What happened just minutes after this photograph remains a complete mystery. 5 minutes after the photograph was posted, at 2:05 a.m., the first call from Spencer's mobile phone was made to Michelle, Sofia's mother, followed by 3 more calls at 2:06, 2:08, and the last call at 2:09. Michelle, who was asleep at the time, didn't answer any of the calls. No voicemails or text messages were left, and the 911 service also didn't receive any calls from that number that night. The photos and videos posted by the young people confirmed that they were indeed at the lighthouse. As a result, the police immediately dispatched 20 different Coast Guard units to the area. The Coast Guard, firefighters, and police conducted searches by air, sea, and land. The first discovery made by the police was Sofia's car, parked on the university campus. Inside the car, they also found her cell phone. Meanwhile, on the same night, the Coast Guard discovered a T-shirt which Spencer had been wearing in the video. The police theorized that Spencer might have used it to secure the boat to the shore. The search continued throughout the night and the following day. Soon, a storm began, and state authorities announced the suspension of the search for the young people until new leads or signs of their possible whereabouts emerged. This decision deeply shocked their families and friends, but they continued their own search efforts, hanging pictures and spreading information about Spencer and Sofia's disappearance throughout the city. They appealed to the public to report any available information. However, despite the large number of people on the streets at the time of the young people's disappearance, no witnesses came forward. The family's searches continued for several days, but all questions remained unanswered. What happened? Why did Sofia repeatedly call her mother? Why didn't she leave a voicemail or call the police? There were many speculations and assumptions. Could they have consumed something illicit? Indeed, they had broken the law by stealing a boat from the campus and heading to the lighthouse without permission. It's likely Sofia feared they could be held accountable, and thus chose not to contact the police, as a few days prior, she and Spencer had already had legal issues. Spencer had been detained for driving under the influence, and Sofia had faced charges for aggressive behavior. Perhaps for this reason, she preferred to contact her mother rather than the police. However, it's unknown what other circumstances were present in Sofia's life at that moment. She might have been in a state of panic and unable to think clearly. Everyone's reaction to such situations can be unpredictable. Meanwhile, detectives tried to reconstruct the events of that day. May 26, 2018, began as a typical day. It was sunny and warm, with the upcoming weekend promising plenty of fun. The city was gearing up for Memorial Day celebrations, a national holiday. Sofia had the day off, but Spencer was scheduled to cover a shift for a colleague from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Afterwards, the young couple planned to meet up and join the city's festivities. Sofia and Spencer intended to spend the rest of the day together, including a visit to the mysterious lighthouse, famous for its paranormal phenomena, which they were eager to experience for themselves. The details of what happened after Spencer's shift ended remain unknown. It's unclear where they went or if they met anyone, and there's no information about whether they had been drinking. However, it was established that Sofia parked her car at the University of Connecticut campus around 2 a.m. For some reason, she left her cell phone in the car. Perhaps she forgot it, or it was out of charge, and she decided not to take it. The pair then illegally took a sailboat without a mast or engine, weighing 14 pounds and equipped only with oars. They pushed it into the water and set off towards the lighthouse, navigating by the rocky shores. Clearly it was unsafe, considering the lack of safety equipment in the boat. Likely they were not afraid to embark on this journey due to Spencer's confidence in his aquatic skills. He had been a proficient swimmer and boat handler since childhood. That's all the investigators managed to gather about the events of that night. On Monday evening, While scanning the surroundings from a search helicopter, the police discovered a white and blue sailboat stuck in the rocks, covered with a layer of dust. The vessel was located 12 kilometers west of the lighthouse. According to police reports, this was likely the same boat that went missing from the campus and might have been used by Spencer and Sofia, although this was not conclusively established. Fingerprints were found on the boat, but they were never analyzed or the results made public to determine if they matched the fingerprints of the young couple. There were also discrepancies regarding the type of vessel used. Initially, it was reported as a kayak, but later information suggested it was a white sailboat with a red inscription. In their search for clues, investigators thoroughly examined the backgrounds of Sofia Mckenna and Spencer Mugford. Sofia Mckenna was born on March 7, 1996, in North Stonington, Connecticut. At the time of the incident, she was 21 years old and lived in Groton, Connecticut, USA. She was the daughter of Michelle from her first marriage and grew up with her brother Justin and younger sister Grace. Sofia was very caring towards her siblings, whom she dearly loved. As a child, Sofia was happy and intelligent, displaying unique qualities. She was active, full of energy, and always led a vibrant and fulfilling life. However, her life was deeply impacted by her parents' divorce when she was around 7 years old, leaving a profound psychological scar. During her high school years, Sofia was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which caused her depression. This mental illness is characterized by drastic mood swings, including manic episodes or hypomania. Sofia experienced emotional lows, such as depression with sadness and melancholy, alternating with manic episodes of euphoria. These mood swings could affect her behavior and clarity of thought. Sofia received treatment, including medication and psychotherapy to manage symptoms. However, there is no cure for bipolar disorder. It presents a challenge for both the patient and their family. The illness significantly impacted Sofia's daily life. Her behavior became unpredictable and her life was chaotic. She had unstable relationships, and the people she interacted with often displayed complex behavior. In 2015, Sofia met Austin. Bright and cheerful, she immediately captured the young man's heart. He pursued the attractive Sofia beautifully and persistently, and they soon started a relationship that lasted 3 years. However, this relationship was rather unpleasant for both Sofia and her mother, Michelle. Austin was a problematic young man, somewhat aggressive, and used anabolic steroids for sports, making their relationship quite unstable. The young couple often argued and yelled at each other, even to the point of physical altercations. Due to her mental health issues, Sofia was typically the instigator of these conflicts. On several occasions, Austin's aggressive outbursts led to injuries to Sofia, requiring hospital visits. About a month before the incident, Sofia discovered Austin's infidelity and decided to end the relationship. However, they continued to see each other sporadically. Despite her struggles, Sofia tried to move forward. She was a very attractive young woman and briefly became a model for a local company, advertising their jeans. This helped her finance her education. She eventually graduated as a massage therapist and found employment at an exclusive spa called The Red Door in a luxurious hotel. It was here that she met Spencer Mugford, her 20-year-old colleague. Spencer, originally from Florida, was a sea enthusiast and an experienced swimmer, working as a sailing instructor. He came from a loving family who had high hopes for his future. Spencer and Sofia quickly bonded over shared interests and similar wavelengths. They reportedly dated for some time, but neither of their families approved, as the young couple was frequently surrounded by trouble. According to Michelle, Sofia's mother, she was deeply concerned about Sofia's well-being, especially since Sofia and Austin continued to meet and often consumed alcohol, which had become almost a daily occurrence. Ultimately, Sofia's relationship with Spencer did not last, and they decided to remain friends. The exact reason for this remains unclear, though it appears Sofia might have returned to her ex-boyfriend, Austin. Despite this, Sofia and Spencer continued to spend a lot of time together, both at work and outside of it, including on their last day. After several days of searching, when fishermen discovered Spencer's body, his family wrote an obituary in the local media. Sofia's family did the same, but they continued to hold out hope and kept searching. They repeatedly tried to recall the events leading up to the disappearance, attempting to figure out what the young people did that evening and whether they met anyone on their last day. However, no new information emerged. It was unclear if there were any other calls besides the ones to Michelle's number from Spencer's phone, as his mobile was never found, and the police did not provide cell operator records. Cameras at the lighthouse and the campus were reportedly not working, so there were no video recordings of that night's events. It was also revealed that the lighthouse was never checked, even though it should have been done by the authorities immediately after the couple's disappearance. In July 2018, Sofia Mckenna's close relatives created a Facebook page titled "Searching for Sofia Mckenna" to keep the case alive in public memory. The page served as a platform for sharing information, brochures, and pleas for any information from the public. Weeks after the disappearance, a strange incident occurred. Michelle received a message from Sofia's social media account requesting money. Since the police were in possession of Sofia's phone, this message raised suspicions, suggesting a possible hacker's involvement. The investigation into Spencer's death and Sofia's disappearance hit a dead end. The police provided no conclusive findings. Unofficially, several theories about the incident circulated. One theory involved Austin, Sofia's ex-boyfriend, and his possible involvement in the young couple's disappearance. Some speculated that Austin might have attacked Sofia, and his friends helped him dispose of Spencer. Their tumultuous relationship, known for frequent arguments and physical altercations, was a matter of public discussion. Michelle, Sofia's mother, witnessed several of their disputes. A month before the disappearance, serious issues arose when Sofia learned of Austin's infidelity on May 8, 2018, and ended the relationship. In what could have been an act of revenge or a new start, Sofia dated another guy, bringing him to her apartment. Austin, infuriated, rushed to her apartment, where neighbors witnessed him furiously banging and kicking the door, hurling insults at Sofia. After about 15 minutes of silence, thinking Austin had left, Sofia opened the door. However, Austin was still there, attempting to push Sofia and enter the apartment. Fortunately, Sofia managed to close the door quickly. Neighbors heard his threats to cut her throat if she didn't open the door. By then, police and Michelle had arrived, and Austin was arrested. The next day, May 9th, a court order became effective. In her statement, Sofia mentioned previous attacks by Austin and provided photos of her injuries. She expressed fear for her life due to his stalking. A restraining order prohibited Austin from being in the same area as Sofia. However, Sofia later felt guilty, and the restrictions were revised. Now, Austin was only prohibited from being in the same apartment as her. The man with Sofia at the time refused to disclose his identity and did not cooperate with the police. Initially, Michelle claimed it was Spencer with Sofia, but later changed her statement. However, a colleague Sofia trusted revealed that it was indeed him. Sofia and Spencer's colleagues confirmed that the two were in a relationship at the time of their disappearance, acting like a couple both at work and outside. Witnesses also recounted an incident at the hotel where Austin, Sofia's ex, showed up at her workplace and publicly threatened her. Nevertheless, Austin and his father participated in the search for the missing couple using a private helicopter and distributed flyers with their images throughout the city. Austin posted on social media, asserting that Sofia was his girlfriend for 3 years and that she had no romantic relationship with Spencer, just friendship. This post, seemingly emphasizing Sofia's association with him rather than her disappearance, appeared odd to many. On July 10th, a memorial day for Sofia was organized by her family and friends. Austin attended the event with Michelle and later posted a now-deleted message on social media. "Rest in peace, baby. We'll see each other soon." These actions raised eyebrows among acquaintances. Austin claimed to authorities that he spent the entire day with Sofia on May 26th and that they continued to meet despite the court order, even making plans for the next day. A friend of Austin stated that around 3 a.m. on the night of the incident, Austin texted Sofia claiming to be at the gym with a friend. However, this was doubtful as gyms are closed at that hour. His family maintained he was home before heading to the gym. An undisclosed witness reported that Austin and his brother were invited to a party that day. Austin initially intended to go, but later messaged saying he was tired and wouldn't attend. This raises questions about Austin's whereabouts when Sofia and Spencer disappeared, with no clear answers available. Austin's acquaintances describe him as temperamental, possibly exacerbated by steroid use. There were rumors of Austin, his brother, and a friend having connections with the Groton police. Also, a woman from Austin's family was allegedly married to the police chief, who was investigating Sofia's case and had complaints of police violence against him. However, the reliability of these claims, provided by Austin's friend with a criminal past, is questionable. The day after a YouTube channel dedicated to Long Island disappearances posted a video about Sofia, Austin removed all photos of them together from his social media. This action caused confusion, especially since Sofia's fate was still uncertain. One theory is that Austin had found a new girlfriend and wanted to avoid complications. However, the complete removal of all photos with Sofia seemed unusual. Furthermore, just days after Sofia's disappearance, Austin's involvement in the search noticeably waned. When he met with investigators, he appeared calm and composed, not visibly distressed by the loss of someone close. However, this is insufficient for any accusations against Austin. People react differently to stress. One theory suggests Sofia was killed to prevent her from testifying against Austin in a domestic violence case. Without her testimony, there wouldn't have been enough evidence, and the case could have been dismissed. This is exactly what happened in the summer of 2018 when the case against Austin was dropped. It's important to note that Austin is not officially a suspect. This theory remains speculative, and the investigation continues. Another version speculates that Sofia and Spencer may have encountered dangerous individuals at the lighthouse. It was a busy day due to the holiday, but witnesses either didn't remember them or didn't find the information significant as no one reported to the police. Sofia's mother theorized her daughter might have been kidnapped or fallen victim to human trafficking, but there's no evidence or ransom demands to support this. The police also considered the possibility of an accident due to reckless actions and decisions. The young couple set out in an unprepared boat without life jackets into strong currents. Once at the lighthouse, they moored the boat with Spencer's t-shirt. They took photos and then realized the boat had drifted away. Relying on his swimming experience, Spencer may have underestimated the water's low temperature. The darkness, which often distorts distance perception, could have made him think the boat was closer. Physically tired from his workday and the swim to the lighthouse, Spencer might have drowned. Realizing she couldn't see or hear Spencer, Sofia tried calling her mother for help. In desperation, she might have jumped in to assist Spencer and drowned as well. Sofia wasn't a strong swimmer, making it unlikely she'd jump into such conditions. However, under the influence of alcohol, she might have made an irrational decision. It's also possible she was walking on the lighthouse's narrow ledge, trying to spot Spencer, stumbled and fell with her phone, then got swept away by the current and drowned. These theories remain relevant, though others exist too. None is the official version, and they lack suspects or culprits, circulating mainly on social media. Sofia's family and friends continue to search for her, desperate to uncover what happened and where she is. In 2019, an independent detective found several bones near the shore and immediately reported it to the police. However, the investigators who arrived at the scene deemed the bones to be of animal origin. The remains were never collected, and due to the high cost, no forensic examination was conducted to determine if they were human. There are many aspects of this case that raise suspicions and warrant a thorough investigation. After all, this is about a missing person with a family in anguish, seeking answers. Sofia undoubtedly deserves continued search efforts. Numerous bodies of other missing individuals have been discovered in these waters, but not Sofia's. No new information has surfaced in her case, and the mystery of what happened that night at the lighthouse remains unsolved. In the mid-2000s, this high-profile case shook the whole of America and was actively covered in the press. The horrific crime was investigated for several years before the killer was finally brought to justice. One of the main reasons for this delay was the lack of a visible motive and disconnected evidence.
and no one simply could not believe that this man was capable of it. The investigation took almost 6 long years to put the puzzle together, and the investigator at the trial openly stated that he had never encountered anything like this in his many years of practice. In this tragic story, found a place and a love triangle, and double betrayal, and an ominous omen, which at first no one paid attention to. Jason Young. Not much is known about him. Jason comes from Brevard, North Carolina, where he was born in 1974. He grew up in an ordinary family. After graduating from high school, became a student at the prestigious state university in the capital of his native state, the city of Raleigh, and after graduating, got a job as a salesman in a large retail chain. At work, Jason Young proved himself to be a valuable and promising employee who could always be relied on, but friends spoke of him as a man who is windy and fickle. In relations with the opposite sex, he was fickle and often changed women, for which he got a reputation as a womanizer, which, however, he himself was even proud. Michelle Marie Young, maiden name Fisher, was born in New York in February 1977. The girl was raised with her younger sibling Meredith, with whom they were very close from childhood. Their mother Linda spent a lot of time with her adored daughters, tried to support them in everything and contribute to the development of their abilities and talents. Since her school years, Michelle was fond of law and economics, dreaming of linking her life with this very activity. After graduating from school, she applied to several universities at once and soon received a positive answer from the capital of North Carolina. The girl diligently studied at the Faculty of Economics and Law, receiving a master's degree in this field. After receiving her diploma, Michelle was hired for a high position in one of the leading accounting firms in the state. Yesterday's student was earning well, fully supporting herself and making big plans for the future. She decided to celebrate her 24th birthday at one of the most popular entertainment venues in the city with her close friends and colleagues. They were heartily enjoying themselves when some stranger awkwardly turned around and knocked a glass with a cocktail out of the birthday girl's hands. The guy immediately started apologizing and, to make amends, bought Michelle another cocktail. That young man was Jason Young, and the pretty young Michelle immediately caught his eye. He sat down at her table and started a casual conversation, joked a lot, tried to be witty and interesting, and at the end of the evening asked her out on a date. It should be noted that Michelle also liked the casual acquaintance, so she willingly accepted his invitation, deciding that it was fate itself made her a gift on her birthday. The couple began to communicate, and soon they realized that they had a lot in common. They both studied at the same university, although Jason got his degree 3 years earlier, supported the same hockey team, and were fans of the same music group. Between young people quickly began a romantic relationship, but to live together, much less get married, was out of the question. At the time of the beginning of his relationship with Michelle, Jason was still living at his parents' house in Brevard. He would only visit his girlfriend in Raleigh on weekends or meet with her during work trips to the state capital. During one of these meetings, his sweetheart informed him that she was pregnant. This news was a real shock for both of them, because neither of them was not yet ready for the birth of a child. Young people were keen on work, confidently climbing the career ladder, and did not plan to create a family yet. Jason said so at once, but Michelle, after some hesitation, decided that she would not have an abortion and would keep the baby. Jason took about a month to rethink the situation, after which he moved to Raleigh to be near his pregnant girlfriend. After a few more months, the couple officially legalized their relationship, though it was not love or pregnancy that contributed to it, but Michelle's lack of health insurance. Childbirth would have cost the couple a huge amount of money, but marriage gave them the opportunity to avoid such expenses. The daughter of the couple Young was born in the spring of 2004. She was given the name Cassidy Elizabeth. The newly married mother went headlong into domestic life and family chores and helped her in this mom and younger sister. It should be noted that Michelle's family coolly accepted her chosen one. They were wary of Jason, but tried to avoid conflicts. In the same year, the young couple with a child moved to their own large house, located in a quiet and landscaped area of the city. Mother Linda, who came to visit her daughter and granddaughter and help with the household, was the first to notice that there was a certain tense atmosphere in this family. Son-in-law was too emotional, irascible, could arrange a scandal literally in the same place, but Michelle tried in every way to smooth out all the quarrels, and in public behaved like the happiest wife and mother. Only Mother Linda she could sincerely tell about what was really happening, an ominous omen. When Cassidy was barely 2 years old, Michelle became pregnant again. She gingerly broke the news to her spouse, but he reacted calmly and seemed even happy about it. Soon, the family traveled by car to Brevard to personally tell the happy news to Jason's parents. They came to visit only for the weekend, and on the first day they celebrated the upcoming addition in the circle of relatives. And the next day, leaving their little daughter for a couple of hours with her grandparents, the couple went to a restaurant to celebrate the event together. As the couple was driving home, Jason, who was driving, overcorrected, oversteered, and the car went off the road into a ravine. The couple were frightened with a few abrasions and bruises, but their lives were not threatened. However, Michelle had a miscarriage on nervous grounds, because of which the young woman was very worried. Jason took it surprisingly calmly. The accident, the loss of a child, and some strange indifference of the spouse, all this looked very suspicious. Later, Linda Fisher would call that accident a bad omen that no one paid proper attention to at the time. The young couple had a mutual friend named Michelle Mani, whom they had known since their days at the same university. For some time they did not see each other, but in the spring of 2006, shortly before the accident, Jason, during a work trip, accidentally met an old acquaintance. He told his wife about it, and together they decided to invite Mani to visit him. The young woman willingly accepted the invitation, but during her visit began to complain about her unhappy family life and problems in her relationship with her husband. At the same time, she constantly praised Jason and told his wife how lucky she was. Pregnant Michelle was somehow not alarmed by such behavior of the guest. She sincerely wanted to comfort and support her friend, but Young took what was happening as a call to action. Jason had never missed an opportunity to flirt before, but this relationship quickly went beyond flirting and friendly support. Jason Young and Michelle Mani began calling each other almost daily and sneaking out to see each other. Jason always justified his absence by business trips, and his wife did not guess anything. In the summer of 2006, Michelle informed her husband that she was pregnant again, but this time Jason was not happy at all. The wife did not understand what was happening. She felt that the beloved away from her, but believed that this is due to the miscarriage that occurred a few months ago. Jason himself all this time was thinking hard about how to get rid of marital bonds with the least loss to himself. In early November, when Michelle was 5 months pregnant, her husband had another business trip. He traveled 300 miles away from home in his own car, but had booked a hotel room about halfway through the trip. That evening, a pregnant Michelle had a long conversation with her best friend on the phone, telling her about problems in the family and mentioning that she had had a big fight with her husband the night before he left. After the conversation, she went upstairs, put her daughter to bed, and fell asleep next to her. About 10 o'clock in the evening, Jason reached the hotel, and as he claimed to be tired from the road, went straight to bed. In reality, he was scrutinizing all the entrances, exits, and the location of the security cameras, planning how to leave the hotel and then return undetected. Jason was preparing an ironclad alibi for what he thought would be the perfect crime. In the early morning hours, Young called his wife's sister to ask for help. He said he wanted to give his wife a piece of jewelry for their wedding anniversary, but he had accidentally sent a page from an online store to the home fax machine. He worried that Michelle would see his gift, and there would be no surprise. Meredith, though she disliked her son-in-law, still agreed to help him. When Meredith arrived at her sister's house, she entered through a secret door in the garage that only family members knew about, and that was always unlocked. The house was suspiciously quiet, although the landlady's papers, keys, and wallet were in the hallway, indicating that she hadn't gone anywhere. When she went upstairs, Meredith saw that the bedroom door was wide open, but neither her sister nor her niece answered her call. When she entered the room, she saw a gruesome sight. Michelle was lying with a fractured skull on the floor by the bed in a pool of her own blood. Blood was everywhere. On the walls, furniture, and baby bloody footprints were visible next to the body. Unfortunately, no one could help the pregnant woman. She had been dead for hours. Her sister rushed to call the emergency services when suddenly she heard rustling under the bed, looked there and saw little Cassidy, who looked at her incomprehensibly. Cassidy was not hurt, but she was frightened. The girl saw her mother's death, and afterwards spent many hours by her body, as evidenced by the marks on the floor, as well as the toys she brought to her mother. Later, forensic experts found a huge number of bruises, abrasions, and fractures on the body of the deceased, which spoke of a long and brutal beating. Michelle's teeth were knocked out, and her skull was fractured with a blunt, heavy object. Later, this instrument of crime was never found. A bloody pillow was lying next to the body, and the marks indicated that the victim had been smothered with it. Nothing was stolen from the house, which means that the night visitor had only one goal: murder. In addition, the locks had not been broken, and there were no signs of forced entry, indicating that the perpetrator had a key or knew about the secret door, which, again, was known only to family members. In such cases, the main suspect is always the spouse of the deceased, but he had a seemingly perfect alibi. He claimed that he checked into his hotel room and did not leave until the morning, and then went to a scheduled business meeting. A check confirmed that Young had used his room keycard in the evening to get in and in the morning to get out. But a detailed investigation soon revealed a host of oddities and inconsistencies. For example, a hotel employee discovered early in the morning that the emergency exit was not only open, but also propped up with a cobblestone to prevent the door from slamming shut. When the investigation decided to check the surveillance camera pointed at that door to find out who had done it, it turned out that this very same camera had been deliberately disabled on the night of the crime. Moreover, it stopped recording about half an hour after Young checked into his room. The weirdness didn't end there. It turned out that during the night, a man who looked like Jason was getting gas at a station between the hotel and the crime scene, but during the night, he was asked to provide identification as per the rules. He refused to do so, threw cash, and without waiting for change, quickly left. The gas station attendant at the inquest identified Jason Young, but the man continued to deny everything, insisting that he had slept in his hotel room during the night. Another oddity was that on the day before the tragedy, Young called Michelle money more than 24 times, and closer to morning he called his mistress 5 more times, with each conversation lasting no more than 15 seconds, suggesting that Jason was probably panicking. And all of these calls were made outside the hotel, where he, in his own words, had been all night. He was also late for a scheduled business meeting with his partners and looked somewhat confused. However, none of this evidence, either individually or all of them together, proved that Young had indeed massacred his pregnant wife. Years of investigation and a long-awaited verdict. For almost 3 years, Jason lived the life he'd always lived. Moreover, he achieved custody of his young daughter, which was a serious blow to the relatives of his dead wife. By that time, he stopped hiding his relationship with Monty, who was once friends with the murdered Michelle, which only increased suspicion that it was Young committed this brutal crime. Jason was arrested only at the end of 2009, but then, despite the large amount of evidence, to prove his guilt failed because the jury did not come to a consensus. However, the case was reopened in 2012 when more evidence was collected and the testimony of witnesses who saw Jason Young that night outside the hotel in different places. In particular, his rather conspicuous white car was seen parked on the night of the murder not far from his own house, in an unlit lot. Also included in the case was the testimony of a child psychologist who told of little Cassidy's strange doll play, during which the girl showed how her daddy spanked her mom, and then she would not get up off the floor. Manny took the stand as a witness in court. She confessed that Jason had cheated on his wife with her, but justified it by saying that he was deeply unhappy in his family life, as he told everyone. And another former mistress of the defendant admitted that she was afraid of his outbursts of anger when he lost control and could hit her. After a long trial, Jason Young was finally found guilty of brutally assaulting his pregnant wife. For this crime, he was sent to prison for life, with no right to ever be released. In 2014, convicted Jason filed his first appeal, but it was denied. In 2018, he again asked for a review of his case, but a panel of the State Court of Appeals again denied it. Cassidy was virtually orphaned. Her mother was murdered, and her father went to prison for the crime. The girl is being raised by her aunt and maternal grandparents.
The betrayal of a loved one always catches us by surprise, because that is why we consider people to be close, when we fully trust them and do not expect a stab in the back. However, criminologists know that when it comes to a brutal murder, the perpetrator should be sought first of all among people from the victim's immediate environment. But what if it was not possible to complete the plan? The victim cannot yet testify because of his serious condition, and the perpetrator is frantically thinking about how to cover his tracks without arousing suspicion. It reminds the plot of some thriller. But alas, this story happened a few years ago in real life. The case of a pregnant Chinese woman named Wang Nan became one of the most high-profile incidents in Thailand. The perpetrator attempted to get rid of his wife in one of the national parks, framing the whole thing as a tragic accident. But it seems that nature itself intervened to save the young woman and her child from being killed. When the truth was revealed, it literally shocked the detectives who investigated the case, as well as the doctors who saved the victim's life, because they were all sure that the husband with all his heart is worried about his wife and baby. But even greater shock caused the motive for such a heinous and cruel act. It should be added that this case is not unique, and in the same Thailand, about the same period, there was a similar story with another couple from China, but the man, unfortunately, managed to bring the plan to an end. But let's talk about everything in order. Wang Nan's story. Wang Nan was born in Nanjing, a major metropolis and former capital of China, in 1987. She grew up in a fairly well-to-do family, and her parents strived to give their daughter the best education and in every way to promote the development of her talents and potential. The girl studied well in school, and especially easy she was given to the exact sciences. After graduating from school, Wang Nan entered a prestigious university where she studied the basics of business and finance, and at the same time on courses mastered several foreign languages. After receiving a diploma, the girl got a job in a large travel agency, where she was able to establish herself as a valuable, responsible, and very motivated employee. She quickly rose up the career ladder, and soon she was sent to Thailand, so that she headed a new branch there and engaged in its development. Nan worked as a top manager for a few years, but then decided to leave the travel agency to start her own business. She opened a restaurant of Chinese national cuisine and managed it so successfully that soon her brainchild grew into a small but popular chain in Bangkok. Meeting Yu Xiaodong. Wang was a successful young entrepreneur, competently led and developed the business. However, for the sake of career, she completely sacrificed her personal life. As the young woman later recalled, her last romantic relationship took place in her student days, but with the beginning of labor activity, she simply had no time to go on dates because of the total employment. Wang Nan was not too worried about her loneliness, even though she was already almost 30 years old. She was constantly in business, always rushing somewhere and working tirelessly. Even though she had lived in Thailand for a long time and had learned the language well, she decided to improve her skills and took additional courses to learn Thai. At the training center, Wang happened to meet a young man named Yu, who stared at her for a few minutes and then approached her in his native language. They exchanged a few words, and the guy asked her why Nan was studying the language, to which she replied that it was necessary for her business development. Yu then suggested that they exchange business cards so that they could meet and socialize sometime. Nan was not eager to continue chatting, but still, out of politeness, she handed him her business card and he gave her his in return. The business card said that Xiaodong was in the export-import business in Bangkok. Wang wasn't impressed and simply tossed the business card into her purse, safely forgetting about it. Only Yu seemed to be seriously interested in the young woman and called her the very next day. However, she was busy with work and could not give the conversation even a couple of minutes and refused the offer to meet and have coffee.
A few days later, the situation repeated itself, and Nan again refused to go on a date, citing her busyness and preparations for an upcoming business conference. There she planned to expand her business ties and make new partners. Then Yu showed up at the event with a luxurious bouquet of flowers, and after waiting for Nan to get free, he approached her and asked her out again. Wang Nan was bribed by such persistence because no one had previously tried to get her attention so desperately, so she agreed to meet him and have dinner. An unexpected romance. It seemed that Yu didn't just fall in love with Nan, he literally lost his head. He constantly gave her signs of attention, made pleasant surprises and gifts, sent flowers to her doorstep every morning with little romantic notes inside, and called at least twice a day to say good morning and good night. Van's feelings were twofold. On the one hand, she was annoyed by the guy's obsession, but on the other hand, she was flattered that someone was trying to win her love. So, without expecting it, for the first time in a long time, the young woman plunged into a romantic relationship. Her boyfriend did not just woo her beautifully, but tried to be perfect in everything. He shared her interests and views in many matters, learned to cook Wang's favorite dishes, sought to diversify their leisure time by getting tickets to various events, and was also ready to help her at work and at home at the first request. Wang Nan could not believe her happiness. It seemed to her that this only happens in the movies, but it was really happening to her. Except Yu was too much of a rush. They had only been dating for a few months, and he was already planning a wedding and coming up with names for their future children. Wang was a little embarrassed by this kind of talk, but at times like this, Yu started talking about how they were both in their 30s, and at that age, it was time to plan a family. A wedding without rings and veils. Nan didn't know how to behave or how to react to her suitor's behavior. She realized that Yu was right about his age, but she still doubted whether he was the right person to marry. One day, after another heart-to-heart talk, when Nan honestly confessed her doubts, Yu promised that he would prove his love to her. That same night, after they went home, the man in love sent his girlfriend a long, touching letter full of tenderness. He confessed his love to her, promised to be the best husband in the world and the best father to their children. In the morning, Wang found the suitor on the doorstep of her house with a bouquet of flowers. Xiaodong declared that he had never been so serious in his intentions and was ready to take her as his wife right now. Nan guffawed, saying that the courthouse wouldn't open until an hour and a half later, to which Yu offered to go there right now, and if the door was open, they would register the marriage immediately. Wang agreed to this venture, confident that the government office would be closed. But to her surprise, the door was opened, and the authorized officer registering unions was already at his desk. As it later turned out, Yu had arranged everything in advance, asking to make an exception for him and his bride, and formalize their marriage early in the morning. It was a very strange wedding. No guests, no rings, no dress or veil, and no memorable photos. Wang Nan could not get rid of the thought that all this is not real, because she did not even introduce the chosen one to his mother, with whom they have always been very close, and when she came to her senses, in her hands was already a marriage certificate. Next to her stood a satisfied, smiling, newly married husband. A tragic accident? In June 2019, when Wang was 3 months pregnant, her husband persuaded her to arrange a vacation and go on a small trip, reasoning that after the birth of the baby, they would not be able to get out anywhere for a long time. Nan reluctantly agreed, and they chose the Thai National Park Reserve Pha Thiem, famous for its picturesque forests and unique rock paintings, the age of which is estimated at tens of thousands of years. However, on the morning of June 9th, tragedy struck. When the couple were on one of the observation decks where they were admiring the sunrise, Wang Nan suddenly fell down from a height of 111 feet. When rescuers arrived at the scene, a crying Yu ran up to them and begged for medics to save his wife and the baby she was carrying. The man said they were enjoying the first rays of the rising sun when suddenly his wife felt sick. She took a step to the side, but she became dizzy and snapped downward before he could pick her up. The young woman had fallen from the height of the 10th floor. She had several open fractures, and the situation seemed hopeless. But suddenly, Nan groaned and opened her eyes. Her husband immediately stopped crying and wailing, and a look of horror appeared on his face. However, he quickly pulled himself together, loudly thanked the Almighty that his beloved was alive, and then leaned to her ear and whispered something in Chinese. Unstable family life. Before dealing with the events of that tragic day, let's go back 6 months and find out how the couple's family life was. And, to begin with, Wang regretted her marriage almost immediately, as soon as it was registered. But at first she was hoping that you would be a good husband, a reliable support, and a man to rely on. Alas, her hopes were not realized, and soon the new husband showed his true colors. He spent almost all his time at home playing computer games, willingly spent his wife's money, while he did not contribute anything to the family budget. When his wife asked him why he didn't go to work, Xiaodong replied that his business was in a seasonal lull, and he could rest for the time being. However, this lull had become too long, so the young woman decided to inquire about her husband's work. That's when she found out that his successful export-import business existed only on paper and printed business cards. At that moment, Wang realized the full scale of the mistake she had made because she had not even thought about drawing up a prenuptial agreement. So now her husband can freely spend what she earns and, in case of divorce, will claim her property. The couple had a serious conversation, during which Yu cried like a child and assured that he had temporary difficulties, but he will definitely improve and find a good job. However, it soon became clear that he was not going to look for anything and felt quite comfortable sitting on his wife's neck. A grown man, and indeed behaved like a child. Almost all the time he played computer games, and if he did something around the house or helped his wife in the restaurant, then be sure to ask her for money for his own needs. At some point, Wang got tired of it, and she said that she would no longer give him a penny until he found a job, stealing from his own wife and an unwanted child. A day after that conversation, Yu disappeared, and with him, Nan's marriage certificate and identity card went missing. But she only noticed the missing documents in the evening when she received a call from her accountant inquiring about the transfer of a large sum of money from her account. The young woman was shocked because she had not transferred any money, but she immediately guessed who had done it. The amount involved was more than $500,000, which the husband had transferred to his personal account, providing the bank with his marriage certificate, his wife's documents, and assurances that it was their joint money, which they managed together. Wang did not hesitate to go to the police to report the theft, and the fugitive husband was tracked down a few hours later when he tried to cash out some of the stolen funds. At the station, Yu sobbed again, and on his knees begged his wife's forgiveness. He admitted that he had lost a large sum of money gambling, and now he was threatened with death, demanding to repay the debt. In addition, it turned out that this was not the first time he had been on the radar of the police, and earlier, back in his native China, he had served 8 years for robbery. Nan almost burned with shame when she listened to all this, because, as it turned out, she did not know the man she married. However, the young woman felt that gambling, it is a disease, and she must help her husband to get rid of this addiction and return to normal life. Wang not only agreed to pay off half of her husband's debt, but also made him the manager of one of her restaurants. At first, Yu seemed to accept it gratefully and took the new position responsibly. He even developed a good strategy for the development of the establishment, but his enthusiasm was not enough for long. Soon he began to spend more time playing computer games and entertainment again. During that period, Wang discovered that she was pregnant, which she informed her husband, but he reacted strangely and even aggressively. Yu said that he was not yet ready for this and persuaded his wife to have an abortion, which she categorically refused. Then the husband threatened divorce and said that he intends to seek through the court to divide the property. He did not speak to his wife for several days, but then suddenly softened and apologized. Yu admitted that he said nonsense on emotion and, in fact, happy about the upcoming addition, began to again show care, cook, and help around the house. Fateful trip. 2 months Van was absolutely happy because her marriage became almost perfect, as promised by the lover at the beginning of their relationship. He was attentive, caring, responsibly fulfilled his job as manager, and actively prepared their home for the arrival of a child. One day Xiaodong offered his wife to ensure her life and health because she was pregnant, and such a step would help to protect her and the baby in case of various unforeseen situations. The young woman readily agreed, and even wondered how she had not thought of it before. The insurance was taken out the very next day, and a couple of weeks later Yu talked about taking a vacation to relax and unwind. Nan was hesitant, but her husband insisted, saying that they didn't have a honeymoon, and with a baby, they wouldn't be able to travel in the coming years. He also said that they had been through a difficult period and needed to reset to get rid of all the negativity and heavy thoughts. In the end, his arguments proved convincing, and Nan agreed. His husband chose the place himself, booked the hotel, mapped out the activities and planned the itineraries so that the trip would be exciting and educational, but not too tiring for the pregnant woman. Nan entrusted the matter entirely to her husband and was happy to see how enthusiastically he was thinking about their vacation. On June 7th, the couple arrived at the park for the first time and spent most of the day there. They walked a lot and visited a lot of beautiful sights and lookouts. On that summer Friday evening, the park had a huge number of visitors who were literally everywhere. Toward evening, Wang noticed that her husband was getting angry and very nervous. When she asked if everything was all right, he replied that because of the crowds of tourists, they couldn't have privacy and enjoy the sunset in silence. Wang Nan even relented, deciding that it would be very romantic. As the sun set, the park became less crowded, and Yu climbed the fence of the observation deck and started calling his wife to the edge, telling her what an incredible view there was. But the pregnant woman refused to go there, citing that it was already dark and it could be dangerous. The husband got angry, but returned to her after a few minutes, saying that they would have to come to the park to meet the sunrise there. Since the couple returned to the hotel well past midnight, they decided to rest and sleep in on Saturday and head back to the reserve early Sunday morning. What happened on June 9th? Early Sunday morning, as planned, the couple went to the national park to admire the first rays of the rising sun. They woke up around 3 a.m. and left when it was still dark outside. There were hardly any visitors at that time, and Van thought for a moment that they were all alone there. The couple met the dawn on one of the observation decks, and afterwards, Yu went down to the cliff and began to persuade his wife to come up to him to admire the rock paintings. Nan hesitated, but her husband assured her that it was safe, and he would help her down and then climb up. The young woman trusted her spouse and cautiously approached it. The view from up there was indeed mesmerizing. Yu hugged his wife and suddenly asked her if she regretted anything in this life. Nan was surprised at such a question, but confidently replied that she didn't regret anything. Then Yu ran his hand through her hair, kissed his spouse on the cheek, and then leaned over to her ear and said, "Die." At that moment, he loosened his embrace and pushed his wife down the cliff. In their opinion, the young woman was dropped off on the road as she had requested, but while she was waiting for a cab to go home, she could have been kidnapped and killed by third parties because Agnes was drunk and could not offer much resistance. The verdict of the judge surprised and angered the relatives of the missing young woman because none of the defendants, in fact, was not punished at all. Usman was cleared of all charges. Capper was sentenced to 2 years for taking advantage of Agnes's drunken state to persuade her to get into his car, and Porter received 6 months for complicity. In reality, the men received suspended sentences and did not spend a single day in prison, but paid Agnes's family the ridiculous sum of £10,000 sterling in compensation. Clavin's family were discouraged by the decision and appealed. And then it turned out that both defendants in the case, while waiting for the court's decision, managed to break the law once again. Capper, being in a state of alcoholic and drug intoxication, knocked down a woman to death and fled the scene, and Porter and his friend, also drunk, stole a car, having previously beaten its owner to a pulp. But even for this serious crime, Capper was sentenced only to probation thanks to the brilliantly built defense of his lawyers. He paid a large sum in compensation to the family of the woman killed under the wheels of his car, and he himself remained at large. Porter was less fortunate this time, and he still went to jail, but there is no information in public sources about the sentence he received. In 2021, almost 7 years after Agnes's disappearance, the main suspect in the case was punished. Wesley had been living an immoral lifestyle all this time, abusing alcohol and illicit substances, which had severely compromised his health. At the height of the COVID pandemic, he found himself in a hospital bed, and when he thought he had conquered the disease, he suddenly had a stroke. Capper died on July 26, 2021, in his 44th year of life. At that time, Agnes's parents filed another appeal with the court. But now the suspect can no longer be prosecuted because he is dead, no matter what the Supreme Court decides in this difficult case. An unexpected twist 9 years later. Although Agnes Cavina was never found dead or alive, she was still presumed dead sometime later. Her parents, sister and fiancé, agreed with the lawyer's version that the criminals had placed Agnes's body in a suitcase, which was subsequently loaded onto a yacht and dumped somewhere on the high seas so that it could not be found. However, in the summer of 2023, 9 years after Agnes disappeared without a trace, the case took an unexpected turn. So, in mid-June, a gardener of one of the elite golf clubs, La Quita, located in the Costa del Sol region, cleaning the area, found a strange object near the coast, which upon closer inspection turned out to be an old, badly damaged suitcase. The man did not dare to open it himself and called the police. Inside the suitcase, law enforcers found human remains. The examination showed that the bones found belonged to a young woman whose approximate age at the time of death was 25, 35 years old. In addition, it was also found that the suitcase with the body inside had spent about 10 years in the water before it was brought to the shore. After comparing all the facts, the police hypothesized that the body found belonged to Agnes Cavina, who disappeared 9 years ago. In order to establish this unequivocally, a number of examinations are required to compare Agnes's DNA with the remains found. At the moment, experts are working closely on this issue, but the details of the investigation have not yet been made public. If the suspicions are confirmed, it will be a reason to reopen the case and bring the surviving suspects to trial. Investigators and the prosecutor in charge of the case had no doubt that the defendant had committed the crime out of self-interest and hoped to receive a large insurance payout, as well as inherit his wife's fortune, which at the time amounted to almost $2.5 million. However, at one of the interrogations, Yu literally shocked everyone by talking about another motive for his inhumane act. It turns out that he resented his wife when she agreed to repay only half of his debt, formed because of a passion for gambling. In the man's opinion, if his wife really loved him, she would have closed all his debts because she had the money. Xiao Dong then decided that Wang did not love him, and he had the right to punish her for it. After these words, the defendant fell silent, and realizing that he had said too much, said that he had been misunderstood. But his unexpected confession, as well as Nan's testimony, was enough to send him to prison for a long time. In March 2021, the defendant was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. But Xiao Dong and his lawyers filed several appeals, and 6 months later, the Thai court showed wonders of leniency, reducing the life sentence to just 10 years in prison. Wan and her loved ones were shocked by the decision, saying that such a lenient sentence would set a bad precedent that could encourage others to commit similarly horrific acts. Also in Thailand around the same time, a similar case occurred on Phuket Island, where a Chinese national drowned his wife, claiming it was a swimming accident on the beach. He also did it for the sake of insurance. Since the fact of the murder was proved, the man was sentenced to death. Xiao Dong, on the other hand, was sentenced to only 10 years for the failed murder attempt, and in fact, the murder of the fetus. How did Wang Nan's fate turn out? To date, the final verdict in Wang Nan's case has not yet been issued. Yu is serving her 10-year sentence, and the injured woman is trying to challenge the court's decision. In parallel, Yu is also filing appeals in an attempt to prove her innocence and be released. For Xiaodong stood up for his numerous relatives who claimed that he was a rich businessman, and it was Wang married to him for selfish motives. However, there is no way to prove it, as the man has nothing but huge debts. As for Nan, contrary to doctors' predictions, after a series of complicated surgeries and long rehabilitation, the young woman was able to get back on her feet. She relearned to walk, and most of the money she earned was spent on her recovery. In 2023, Nan took up work again and was able to revitalize her once successful business. She has also created and led an organization dedicated to helping women who are victims of domestic violence. She also runs her own blog, trying to warn women against the mistakes she made herself.